morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I bring you wonderful news that Togekiss VMAX might actually be good. When I looked at Togekiss VMAX, when I made my video about it, I largely dismissed it as a Pokemon that would be very nice and interesting and good as a tech in other decks, but was not necessarily going to become a great deck in and of itself. Well, it looks like I might be wrong, and I'm kind of delighted about it. Now, Togekiss V is a largely underwhelming card as far as I'm concerned, and for a single energy, it will do 90 damage, woo, against an evolution Pokemon. Which means it's not actually a particularly good early game Pokemon, because there won't be an evolution out, and there aren't many evolutions that have 90 or less HP. It's still decent damage for a single energy, but you'll rarely be getting KOs with it. Free energy 130 is similarly underwhelming. But Togekiss VMAX comes along, and for 2 energy lets you do 120 damage, and you search your deck for any 2 cards and put them into your hand. And that's where we can start getting rather excited indeed here. Because what we're basically going for is, right, you know what? We are super hyper consistent, and when you're super hyper consistent, what are you going to do? You're going to play a whole bunch of disruption energy denial cards. And make no mistake about it, this is an energy denial deck. A very blatant energy denial deck. Shout out to the lovely Talonite X over on Twitter for hooking us up with the deck list. And it really is all about getting rid of energy. You're pinging away 120 with Togekiss is lovely and fine and brilliant and wonderful, and yeah, okay then. But really what we're doing here is making sure that we are just getting rid of our opponent's energy, and if they can't attack, they can't win. And if they can't win, we can win. That's a good thing. And honestly, the main Pokemon we see here other than Togekiss is probably Magneton. Now, Magneton's a weird one. This is a one from Cosmic Eclipse. And when you KO it, you give up a prize. Now, also worth pointing out here, if you only have Togekiss VMAX out, you can give up 2 prizes with Magneton, and it doesn't help your opponent get any closer to winning. You give up 2 prizes, then they KO a VMAX, they've taken 5 prizes, they haven't won yet, and that is still got to KO a VMAX in order to win. This is a good thing. Now, it doesn't work if you have to put other Pokemon down, but there is a scenario here where you just blow up 2 Magneton and you don't get any closer to losing the game. Now, Magneton here just lets you search for free supporter cards and put them in your hand. Simple as that. And we'll get to the supporter cards later, but obviously this is a Lieutenant Surge's strategy thing. Lieutenant Surge lets you play 2 other supporter cards this turn, so essentially you use Magneton to search for Lieutenant Surge and 2 others, and then you can play those other 2 straight away. In terms of other Pokemon, we got a couple of Jirachi. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck when it's in the active. Find a supporter card, put it into your hand. Jirachi goes to sleep, free retreat with a skateboard. Stop me if you've heard that one before. And then we got 1 copy of Dedenne. Discard your hand, draw 6 cards if you're desperate in the early game. And 1 copy of Marshadow that lets you discard it, so that you can also discard a stadium from your opponent. And of course, it means it's not sitting there as a 1 prize liability. And if you blow up 2 Magneton, then actually having a 1 prizer out is a very, very bad thing. What you really want to try doing here is setting up without using stuff like Jirachi and Dedenne, but it's not always possible. Now, in terms of the energy line here, things are kind of interesting. We're playing Holy Special Energy, which, yes, can be a downside. We are playing 4 copies here of Powerful Colorless Energy, because it lets you do an extra 20 damage, just like the old Strong Energy, but instead it's for colorless Pokemon, which is pretty gosh darn good. The other one we see here is 4 copies of Capture Energy. Now, Capture Energy is kind of a fun one. You play it down onto a Pokemon, and then you get to search your deck for a basic Pokemon and put it onto your bench. You're playing Colorless Energy, so you can play all these weird special energies, So you might as well play Capture Energy. You don't need to play Capture Energy, but what it does is it gives you extra consistency, and most decks can't afford to play Capture Energy because it's only a colorless energy. Well, this deck totally can, so why not, quite frankly? Why not? Now, we do see a copy of Weakness Guard Energy here because you do have that weakness to Lightning. Nice to cover it. And we see a single copy of Draw Energy here. I don't know how I feel about a single copy of Draw Energy, but when you attach it, you get to draw a card. It could be another Weakness Guard Energy, but that really depends on the meta you're moving into. Now, as we move into trainers, I told you it was Energy Denial, and it is Energy Denial. What we've got here is 4 copies of Crushing Hammer. Flip a coin. If heads, remove an energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. We then have 4 copies of Team Yell Grunt. Team Yell Grunt takes an energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon and puts it into their hand. But bearing in mind, because you're playing Lieutenant Surge's strategy here, you can do this twice in one turn. And then, of course, we also play Pal Pad here to recover those supporter cards so you can use them over and over again. In terms of other supporter cards here, we see 1 copy of Faber. It puts a tool or a stadium or a special energy into the lost zone here. So if you're against a Pokemon using special energy, Faber will come along very, very nicely. And then 1 copy of Belelba and Bryson Man. Both players discard the top 3 cards of their deck. But you can also have both players discard until they've got 3 bench Pokemon. The theory here, of course, is that you're getting rid of your opponent's energy, so your opponent is going to be digging through more cards to try and get more energy, and when they get close to the end of their deck, Belelba and Bryson Man will win the game. We also see a single copy of Boss's Orders, but given how easy it is to search out with Magneton and the fact that you can recover it with Pal Pad, it really doesn't matter that you're only playing the 1 copy here. And then the other supporters look a lot more reasonable. You've got Marnie and you've got Professor's Research. Marnie, both players shuffle their hands and put them on the bottom of their deck. You get 5 cards, your opponent gets 4. Professor's Research, you discard your hand and draw a new hand of 7 cards. These are the 2 best draw supporters. They have been for quite a while, since Sword and Shield came out really. So you should just expect to see basically every deck playing these until the rotation hits and they go away. Pokemon Search is fairly straightforward. 4 copies of Quick Ball because of the whole basic thing, and 3 copies of Evolution Incense, which will search out your evolutions, your Magneton, your Togekiss VMAX. You need to play Summon to get your evolutions. It really is as simple as that. Getting your basics between Quick Ball and Capture Energy shouldn't be that hard. Getting your evolutions really is going to be very important. It's not the easiest. We have a copy of Recess Stamp. Like every deck, your opponent shuffles a hand into their deck, draws a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes. Good in the late game to slow them down. And our 1 stadium here is a copy of Chaos Vortex, or Chaotic Swell as it got translated. And very simply, this is just a counter stadium. Simple as that. You play it down, and if your opponent plays a stadium, it gets discarded without doing anything. It's really nice if you don't know what stadium to play, and especially if you're playing a disruption deck. We then see 2 copies of a skateboard for Jirachi, it's fairly important, and we finish off with 2 copies of Counter Gain. You attach it to a Pokemon, and if you're behind on prizes, it reduces the attack cost by a single energy. But bearing in mind, you will be able to use Magneton to go behind on prizes here, and that turns Togekiss VMAX into a single energy attacker, and then you can just have powerful colorless energy to do that extra 20 damage. I'm not sure how I feel about this deck. I still don't like Togekiss's low damage output, with 1 powerful colorless energy hitting 140 a turn. But the fact of the matter is, not only are you playing a bunch of disruption, between Magneton and Togekiss VMAX, you are going to have what you need every turn. It's not a case of you can play Lieutenant Surge and double Team Yell Grunt. It's a fact of you are going to reliably and often be able to pull that off. And that's kind of ridiculous. I'm putting this in the maybe pile for now. I love the idea of the deck, and I love the energy denial. I'm not sure it's going to be strong enough against the top decks in the format, but it's such a cool little fun unique deck. I would love to be wrong about this, but I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.